expressions seemed to be communicating something that Will could not read. Deacon Conti, his father's right-hand man, and by all accounts, Will's right-hand man while his father was on break, stood. He cleared his throat ceremoniously, and it became clear to Will who was running this particular meeting. Will knew that Deacon Conti didn't mince words, so he knew he would not be left in the dark much longer about the details of this mystery meeting. In light of recent discoveries, it has been decided that Pastor Donovan should retire as both pastor and chancellor of the school at Grace Apostle, effective immediately. Deacon Conti's eyes were unapologetic. His demeanor suggested he was ready for a rebuttal. Will looked at his dad. They were both temporarily frozen in place. Recent discoveries equaled one thing: his dad's long-term affair with Madame Ava Lucas. His dad hadn't made an all-out confession, like famed televangelist Jimmy Swaggart's tearful televised admission to the like in the late 80s. His father had simply walked Gail, his daughter and the product of that affair, down the aisle recently at her modest wedding, held at the church. Although an early retirement was the same sanction Will had suggested out of anger be imposed on his dad when he first found out that his dad had cheated on his mother and the late First Lady of the church, this dethroning felt more like a beheading. Hey, wait. I'm missing something. Like when this decision was made and by whom? Will remarked. Doesn't the person retiring usually deem when he's no longer able or no longer desires to hold the position? I mean, come on. My dad has been a dedicated pastor, colleague, and friend to this church community for nearly 50 years. The pastor kept an extramarital affair a secret from this board and the entire church body. He deceived us all, replied John Lyons, the former chairman of the deacon board, which was held in emeritus standing now. Will tempered his words for this patriarchal figure, whose history with the church dated back to his dad's early days as pastor. The pastor is your friend, isn't he? For an older man, Deacon Lyons was quick with his reply. So was the First Lady Donovan, a good friend to Ethel and me. All the women of this church would see his infidelity, his secret, as an act of treason even after all this time. Will dug his heels into the floor where he sat. When his mom died, a little more than 15 years ago, he'd felt very much like the ground had given way from under him. He'd struggled for a long time to regain his sure footing. Finding out about his dad's affair had shaken his foundation again, and had left him with the same feeling of uncertainty and vulnerability. No one can claim ownership over this. The shock, the hurt, the grief. It didn't hit anyone the way it hit me, Will asserted, a little too passionately for the case he was supposed to be making. The fact is, your father stood up there in the pulpit and preached against adultery and promiscuity when he was doing that kind of thing all this time. I think he ought to stay out of the pulpit, Deacon Conti said, chiming in. Will was taken aback when he heard what was really an echo of his own words. He'd heard of war room sessions with church elders that ended with a recommendation and a final say on the pastor's penance. Men were fallible. There would always be sin. Was there no one present who was willing to give his dad a second chance besides him? Charlie Marks, the head of the 6-member trustee unit, spoke. This is a church, for heaven's sake. There is a certain standard for its leaders. I mean, my marriage is not perfect, but I've never gone outside it. Never will. Deacon Conti continued making the board's case, painting a picture that Will wasn't sure his interim pastor was objective or his own projection. According to Deacon Conti, whispers of Pastor Donovan's indiscretion would surely turn into sparsely attended services, cries of concern throughout the congregation, all-out outrage, and calls for his removal. This was the only way for him to bow out gracefully. They would allow him to announce his retirement and accept an honorable discharge.